boo, boo.
Cancer got you down? Pretty grim, huh? How about a show that turns the grim into a grin? Way to go! You made it here to the Cancer and Comedy Podcast, the show to lift you up with hope and humor that heals.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you, everyone, for joining our live stream today. Lifter Uppers, I am Deb Kriet, the co-host of Cancer and Comedy, where our mission is to heal cancer-impacted people through hope and humor, something we like to call turning the grim into a grin. Well, today on our live stream for Cancer and Comedy, we're going to be talking with Gordon Hill. I first met the wonderful Mr. Hill way back when he was a guest on my podcast in 2017. He is an author, he is a speaker, and he has his program, The 6 Factors of Success. And we're going to be really talking about that and having a great conversation with him. So now here is the host of our Cancer and Comedy podcast and live stream, Dr. Brad Miller.
Hey, Deb, what an honor, privilege it always is to be with you and to be with our live stream audience here on Cancer and Comedy, the folks we like to call lifter uppers, because we're all about helping lift up one another who deal with adversities in life overall, and particularly cancer and health-related things. Both Deb and I are cancer thrivers and survivors. I dealt with prostate cancer and she dealt with breast cancer, and we love to talk to people who have had other challenges and difficulties in their life and have found a way to get through it. We like to call it to heal with hope and humor, and kind of know that, hey, we're not done yet with this life, and we want to help to give you some tools to help turn the grim of things like cancer into the grin of a fulfilled and happy life. And one of the things that we like to ask people to please join our community, and we are building this community of people who are full of like-minded people, and you can do that by going to cancerandcomedy.com/follow, and here on the live stream you can always connect up with us by just joining the live stream here and giving us a comment, or help us know that you are there. But one of the things I always like to do is just just lift up a silly little dad joke. So how about a dad joke for our audience here today?
I love our dad jokes.
So a duck walks into a pharmacy and says, "Give me some chapstick and put it on my bill."
Cute.
One more. What did the father buffalo say to the little boy when he dropped him off at school?
I don't know.
Bye, son. Bison. Bison.
Cute.
All right.
Bison. Yeah. I love it.
There we go.
Well, as mentioned, we would love for you to be a part of the Cancer and Comedy community, where together we crush cancer with a message of how to cope with hope and humor. Please follow Cancer and Comedy at cancerandcomedy.com/follow.
Well, thank you for that as well. And one of the things we are doing right here is we are like to bring in people who have connected with our community, and we've done a few live streams, and someone who connected with our live stream community, and as Deb mentioned, he had a connection with her and in her podcast a few years ago, and his name is Gordon Hill, and he's got quite a story to tell in his own life, but also about how he also has what we like to have is a process that people can follow to help them to deal with adversity in life, and he has such a thing, and he is just an incredible story to tell with us here now. So, hey, let's bring onto our stage Gordon Hill. Gordon, how you doing there, buddy? Welcome to our live stream here.
I'm doing fine, thank you. It's a privilege. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, that is awesome that you are here with us, and I'm going to make sure you get in the. I'm going to try to put you in the center of the screen here so people can get get a good look at you here. Well, there we go. I'll
Close enough.
I got Deb in the center of the screen. That's where she belongs, the center of attention. But Deb, tell us a little bit. You got to know Gordon a few years ago in a business context. Tell us a little bit of your relationship with him, and then we're going to get into his story here.
I did. As I mentioned, I interviewed him way back in 2017. Hard to believe it was that long ago, right? The pre-COVID years, right? I do have a podcast called The Business Power Hour, and we talked about his 6 stages of living, which is childhood, adolescence, adult, maturity, mastery, and elder. But then, of course, there might be a 7th, which is called enthusiast, because as I met him, he was Story Gordon. And we learned all about how to tell our stories and use them as part of our business and our daily lives. And he and I had a great conversation. We now follow each other on Facebook and comment every once in a while, but it is a delight to have known him all these years.
Well, you are known as Story Gordon, and you have your own YouTube channel, Story Gordon, as well. But Gordon, unpack it for us a little bit of your story, just a little bit of your story for a minute or two here, of especially how you've had to face a few adversities and various types of health-related things and other things in your life, how you've had to face them and then get through them. Tell us a little bit of your story, Story Gordon.
Thank you. My story is interesting. I'm at a point in my life now where I've finally realized each of us is an original, which means, let me get this light out of the way, which means every one of us is living an original story. A summary of mine could be characterized as happy accidents.
Okay.
In the 8th grade, I fell in love with Carolyn. She agreed to go on a date with me. I dropped her camera after a dance and broke it into pieces. That ruined her camera, her film, and her affection for me. 3 years later, deciding I was not going to marry, my buddies talked me into dating a new girl in school. I did. We hit it off. We got married right after high school. We were married for 63 years. In my junior year in high school, I wanted to be a high school math and science teacher. I graduated early, went to college, did not do well, so I joined the Air Force. They sent me to a tech school, electronics tech school, where I fell in love with electronics. When I came out, I became an engineer. And from there, I progressed through several careers, ending as a high-tech seminar leader in 1987, and for 14 years I taught fundamentals of internet technologies as a geek in a suit.
Okay.
We both retired, moved to New Mexico, lived there for 14 years, living the life that we wanted after employment. My wife contracted Parkinson's, we came back to our hometown. We were high school sweethearts here in Maryville, Missouri. And her Parkinson's just avalanched. She only lived about 3 months after we got here in February of 2020. When she died, I had this giant hole in my life because a 63-year marriage just consumes you. And I enrolled in grad school here at Northwest Missouri. Graduated in May of 2025. And today, I'm working primarily as a writer. I have a bachelor's degree in engineering from Mizzou and a master's degree in English from Northwest, and I'm trying to become a writer.
Let's just pause there just for a second there,
Sure.
and just to indicate that there's something pretty cool right there, Gordon, that you said, if I'm picking up on this correctly, and Deb, help me out here. Did you go back to school, I think, in your 80s? Is that right, Gordon? Help me out here. Were you in your 80s?
I was 82 when I enrolled, and I graduated when I was 85.
And so you had...
Oh my gosh.
So you had this transition in your life. You lost your wife to Parkinson's, and what we like to talk about here is some of the actions that people take in order to deal with tragedy. When they deal with loss, or sometimes it's cancer, sometimes the loss of a spouse, any type of adversity. And you were quite aggressive about that, about going back to school. What do you think about that, Deb? Give me your thoughts about that.
I love it. And that's one of the things that I think is the biggest lesson that we can take from Gordon is don't stop. Right? You just keep going, and I love that, and that's so much fun, and that's one of the big things that I admire about you is, something happens, you just go on. You have another birthday, you go on, and I love that.
Yeah. Well, Gordon, in your story, then you went back to school. So what do you? And you're now you're a writer. So what are you writing? What are you working on now? And what are you coming up with that is that's helping you move forward now?
When I started the grad school program, we have a couple of local weeklies here in town. And I contacted them, and one of them agreed to publish a weekly column of mine. So for about 3 years, I've been writing a weekly column. She wants me to keep it under 500 words, and serious writers know how hard it is to make a point in under 500 words. So usually my first draft is 600 or 700 words, and then I have to get out the pruning shears and cut it down without eliminating meaning. I don't have a title for the column, but recently I've been calling it an idea to consider. You've got me in the center now. That's a pretty good place for me because politically, philosophically, that's where I see myself.
So that, if I'm understanding you correctly, you put these ideas out, and it's points to ponder, things to think about, things to think. So give us an example then of one of those columns that you wrote, or what is one of the things that you are asking people to consider?
A part of my point of view, I now, even though I've been called Story Gordon for several years, I'm going back to Gordon Hill. It's a process to change everything on the internet and website and all of that. But my 6 factors of success begin with mission and vision. Mission being simply, what is it you want to accomplish, not in life, but right now, this moment, and this day will lead to the next day. Because if you look up the definition of success, I believe success is what every human being is trying to do, is to be successful. And the Oxford English Dictionary at one point said success is the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. And I look at that and say, well, an aim is a goal, and purpose is, I could equate with behavior. And that's not a new idea. You can go back to millennia and find out that philosophers talked about actions and behavior. It's everywhere. So what are we doing, and who are we being while we're doing it? Mm-hmm. Those are the 2 factors. And so
yeah, that's a fantastic definition there of mission, and you got mission, which is what you're doing right now. I hear you saying that. I also heard you say something about vision, which to me tells you a little bit of what you're doing right now. It kind of drives, you have a bigger vision of where you want to go. So say a word about that, how this present mission is also helping you to move towards your vision.
Well, the vision is how you will feel about having done what you have done.
I love it.
Is, recently, I've zeroed in on being helpful as the primary goal for every human being. And the reason I think being helpful as the primary goal is very simple. From the moment you were born until you were able to fend for yourself, you were helped by countless people. So you have a debt to everyone who helped you, and you have a debt to help others, because you can't just hoard help. So it's an investment. You have an account of helpfulness that you've received. Of course, now I'm 86. I walk with a rollator, so I'm being helped all the time.
There you go.
It's hard for me to open the door. People see me
You
coming
know,
and they race to the door to open, even though I'm perfectly capable.
Right. I
But
love
so,
it.
but it's simple.
so
It's
that's
simple. It's simple and it's beautiful to be helpful. I love it. What do you think, Deb? Just that simple, beautiful thing to be helpful.
We all need to do this more, right? I think that's the thing is, maybe we need to open doors for people as opposed to, oh my gosh, letting them slam on people. I've seen that happen, right? Um, and the world would just be a better place if we really did just think, how can I be helpful? My mom ingrained in me, always say thank you. Now the funny thing was she didn't always say thank you, but
Okay.
same thing. It's the golden rule, right? We want to treat people as we would want to be treated. But I love that Gordon, you mentioned that there's this bank. You've had all of this in the past, and now you need to spend it helping others. And I just love that idea.
Well, I think if we can be helpful and avoid being hurtful, I
Hmm.
think that's not a bad way to go through life. Well, Gordon, some of the stuff you say and some of the stuff we've talked about before is how you think that there's what I think you call it a triad: actions, behaviors, and worldview. That's part of your process here. Say a little bit about that, about actions, behavior, and worldview are important
great.
aspects of who we are and how we
Yeah,
approach
the
approach life.
triad is the third uh, factor. The first one is mission and vision.
Hmm.
The second one is what I call the fundamentals of success.
Okay.
Now, just briefly, the first fundamental of success is desire. What is it you really want to do?
Hmm. Hmm.
Not what other people want you to do, what you really want to do,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
what you want to do that can be helpful. The third is the triad. And the triad flows right from actions and behavior. Actions, what we're doing, behavior, who we're being while we're doing it. And that's not a new concept either. Both of those that complete the triad, both of those flow from our worldview.
Hmm.
And our worldview is everything we hold as being true. Within our worldview, there's a subset called the mindset. And the mindset is very difficult to change. Okay. I won't eat tuna casserole. I don't know why. A lot of people eat. I have I am offended by tuna casserole.
And
It's
who
got
isn't?
no
And who isn't offended by tuna casserole? My goodness. Bring
well
me
a lot of
bring me
my
chicken
mother,
casserole. Do not bring me tuna casserole.
but our mindset. I probably shouldn't say this. This may cost you listeners, but I'm a Yankees fan. I've been a Yankees fan since
Oh
1949
no!
when
Oh
we moved
dear!
here to Maryville, Missouri.
Hey, they did
And
pretty good
But
last
you
night for
better
you.
root a little bit harder.
Yeah.
but I'm I'm a Yankees fan because the Kansas City Blues in Kansas City, 100 miles from where we live, was a AAA farm club. And we used to go down to see the Kansas
Oh,
City
okay.
Blues. And we got to see some of the Yankees players who were on their way up or were on their
Oh,
way
I love
down.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it went
the
both
point,
ways. Hmm.
but the point is, our mindset is what we have to work on.
Hmm.
Our worldview changes all the time. Every we're paying attention, but our mindset needs to be worked on.
Hmm.
I grew up in a racist, anti-Semitic society. I don't think I've ever been a racist or an anti-Semite. And I can see the silliness of racism because racism is a scientific term that applies to some species,
Hmm.
but not humans. Because a race is a specific DNA that has an extremely high correlation, and we don't have that anymore, especially in the United States.
I
So
love
people have said, oh,
I
yeah,
love what
people
you
have now said, well, black is a race and
Hmm.
white is a race. Okay, well, if black is a race, Barack Obama's father was black, but his mother
Hmm.
was white.
Right. It's the
He's
melting
the
pot,
product
right?
of black and white.
Hmm.
So why is he black? What's his skin color? And
Hmm.
your skin color is determined by your DNA. So why would we want to be against somebody who has a characteristic over which they have no control?
Hmm.
sure.
I mean, you can't change it.
I love what you're doing here, Gordon. Is you're kind of bringing this engineering mindset, this analytical point by
Yep.
point. Every action leads to another
That's really
reaction.
DNA.
Reaction, and you're bringing this to bear here with all the various parts that you're saying
Yeah,
here.
I like to tell people I'm an engineer. I am addicted to models like
Okay,
the triad
right.
and terminally analytical. But let me complete the triad. The triad is actions, behavior, and worldview.
Mhm.
Actions, what we're doing, behavior, who we are being while we're doing, and worldview, how we see
Mhm.
ourselves, others,
Mhm.
and everything else. But I can boil that down. I I had a desk plaque years ago. It's probably in a box somewhere in my co-op. The way to do is to be. Lao Tzu. The way to be is to do. Nietzsche. Doobie doobie doo. Sinatra.
And now we're going to have that in our head all day, right?
Yep.
Now we've got the
But
earworm of
but
doobie
do
doobie doo.
yeah,
And now, for whatever reason, I'm thinking Scooby Doo is what I'm thinking.
yeah.
There you go.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah.
But doing and being are how we participate in life.
Yeah, I love it. Be do. I've also heard of be do have. You got to be yourself first, then take
Yep.
action, and then things can have. Be do have, and then you take this. Let's just kind of play this on out here, there, Gordon. Then you go from your actions, behavior, and worldview of your triad, and then you help us. This is where I like to. What I'm about, and Deb knows this about me, I like to see how we could take the concepts we talk about, she and I talk about here on Cancer and Comedy, and people can always check it out at cancerandcomedy.com, that we like to take those concepts and see how they can apply to our lives. How we can help to, so many people get stuck when we're talking about whether it's cancer or some other bad thing in life. So many people get stuck and they don't have the tools to cope. We like to call it cope with hope and humor. But you give us some tools by your 5 questions that you give us to help us kind of sort through this. Can you help us with that next stage there,
Sure.
your 5 questions?
Yeah, the 5 questions are basically a cascade. The first question is, what's it about? What's what about? Everything. What's the universe about? What's the planet about? What's life about? What's human life about? What's my life about? What's your life about? So it's just a matter of what's everything about. The next one then is, okay, I've got a view of what it's about. Who am I? Who am I in this scheme of what's about? Okay, if I know who I am, where am I going is the third question. Where am I going? What do I want to do? Who am I going to be? What do I want to accomplish? How do I want to be seen? Then the fourth one is, who will go with me? Who are my fellow travelers? Because I'm not going to do this alone. I need companions. And I need companions who will support me, reinforce me when things aren't going that well.
Mhm.
So
Well, that
what's
seems
it
to me
about? Who am I? Where am I going? Who will go with me? And then finally, how will I participate in life? Is the And I love the word participate because the first 4 letters, part, identify the duality of living. Because we both live apart from and as a part of the wholeness that we're in. So most of the time we live apart from everything else. We're singularities, we're individuals, we're originals. We live our own lives, and we are to a great extent the master of our own ship, even though there's a lot of our life that's deterministic that we have no control over. I did not choose to have cancer in, but I did choose to go through the chemotherapy. And I choose to go through the chemotherapy every other week from 1995 to 96. And on the weeks I was not taking chemo, I was on the road teaching a 3 to 5 day seminar. So I'd have seminar. So I'd have chemo one week, teach a seminar the next week, chemo, and I did that for 7 months.
Yeah. And so you had that was your method of coping with your cancer. You dealt with it. I heard you say mindset earlier.
Yeah,
keep moving, keep action, keep going.
I've, yeah, I've had the great privilege of being guided by wonderful people. My mother, I think every time I left the house, she always said, "Be good and have fun." And I thought, boy, that's not a bad mantra. Be good and have fun.
Yeah.
My dad had a grocery store. His simple rule is very simple. We treat everybody in this store exactly the same. We don't care what they're buying, how much money they're spending, how rich they are. We treat them all the same. They're all customers. They're all peers. I won't go on and on, but there's one other one that's very important. In the 90s, I was a member of the National Speakers Association, got to know some of the great professional speakers, Bill Gove, Bob Murray, Patricia Fripp, etc. But Bill McGrain was a very interesting guy. And one day we were standing in the hall of the convention talking. He says, "Gordon, I've got one thing I'd like to say to you. Have no expectations."
Interesting.
I said, wait a minute. He says, "Look, there aren't any errors. If you expect something to happen and it doesn't, you're going to be disappointed. But what happens is going to happen anyway. Sure, you have control over your actions, but when I got cancer in 1995, I had not expected to get cancer. I did not chosen to get cancer." So basically what he was saying is, look, take what comes and deal with it.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I've done. I just take what comes.
Take what comes and deal with it. And ways you're dealing with it, though, are very assertive. That you're doing some things about. You're not let just cancer happen to you. When your wife passed away, it wasn't just Gordon. I've experienced this in my ministry and in my life. I'm sure we all have had people when they lost a spouse or something else bad happened, they withdrew and they basically gave up on life. You know what I'm talking about? They gave up.
Yep.
You chose not to give up when you had cancer in the 90s. I know you've had some certain other things to deal with in terms of your health issues that you've dealt with, but you've never given up, have you? And I know part of what I wanted to, in each stage of life, you have managed to do this, and even you're in your mid 80s now, and I just think that's awesome. But tell me a little bit about how there may be some applicable principles that help us to deal with adversity at these various stages of life. I know you talk a little bit about that in your six factors as well.
One of my coping mechanisms is when I get up in the morning, I have a routine. I turn on the coffee pot because I set it up the night before. I get cleaned up and dressed. I head to my easy chair, my recliner in the living room with a cup of coffee, and I write in a journal. I write every day in the journal. I've been doing that for, I don't know, since 1987. How long is that? That's
wow.
But I've got over 60 filled notebooks in the closet here, but I never go back and read them. That's not the purpose of my journal. The purpose of my journal is to center myself for the day, to put myself at a pivot point where I can go through the rest of the day and not say, wait a minute, what's going on? What am I doing here?
Yeah.
And that all started in 1980, maybe it was 88 or 89. Sprint Corporation, which I don't know if anybody knows them anymore, but I was a seminar.
They're based in Missouri, or were.
Yeah, they hired me to develop a 3-day customer service training course for their employees. And as I got into it, I was hit by depression. So bad, I could get out of bed, I could eat, but I could not work. So my doc sent me to a psychologist, a counselor, and we worked. She sent me to a doc who put me on Prozac, and we went through talk therapy. And within about a month and a half, I was back at work. But what I had done is the talk therapy worked, the Prozac worked, but I had started writing in a journal every morning, and what I was writing were my toxic thoughts. I was depressed because I was having negative thoughts. So I just started opening that journal every morning and writing down every negative thought that paraded through my mind. And then I would close the notebook and say, okay, all the garbage in my
Done.
life is right
Mhm.
there. If I ever want to feel bad about it, I can open this up and read it.
Mhm.
But I'm going to set it aside now for later reading. And
So basically, if I
the
understand, you
way,
kind of got that out of your system, as it were. You put
Mhm.
it on the page,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
I
And
have
then you were
to
done with it.
then
Mhm.
also
yeah,
have to assume you were not a toxic person in your day that day to others. Is that
right.
that you were?
And then in a few years, when my depression had lifted and I was fully functional again, I changed my morning recordings from toxic thoughts to reinforcing thoughts.
Okay. So your
So,
gratitude type of
yeah,
journal.
well, yeah, when I get up in the morning, I basically focus on, okay, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish?
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
And so
Well, so what do
today,
you? I'm sorry. So you journaled. You've talked about the overcoming depression. You overcome cancer. Your loss of your wife. You seem like a pretty resilient person, Gordon. Would you categorize yourself as a person who's learned a bit about resilience?
yeah, that I really have a problem with trying to self-assess. You know, I think the word being helped. I just try to be helpful. I try to help myself.
There you
I do
go.
help. Try to help others. Uh, I smile, nod, and say hi to everybody I see in the grocery store or when I'm out. Uh, just try to be a be a
Mhm.
friend, so to speak. But
Well,
uh,
kindness works, doesn't it? And kindness can be contagious, and
yeah,
that's a
Mhm.
good thing. So,
well, the next level in my 6 factors though is what I call stages of living,
Mhm.
and basically there are three fundamental stages that everyone goes through: childhood, adolescence, and what Jung called individuation. And childhood is primarily about biological development. We grow 8 to 10 or more times in body size. It ends at puberty when we become sexually mature. Then we go into puberty, which, as Eric Hoffer, the philosopher, said, is when the mind catches up with the body. Your body is sexually mature, but your mind is still very young at puberty. So for the next 10 to 15 years, your mind is catching up with your body. At one point, somewhere, usually in your 20s, and often when you leave home and all of a sudden you're independent, you go into this stage of individuation, which basically means you your mind and body coalesce
Mhm.
into a wholeness, and you say, wait a minute, this is who I am. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is this is my life. I don't
Mhm.
need Ralph Edwards to do a program on me. I know what my life is, and you live it. Now, after individuation, there are other stages. Mine stages were basically focusing on my profession and then mastering my profession and then leaving my profession to live as an elder.
Mhm.
And as an elder, my role in life is very simple. I just try to help.
try to help. Try to help. Let's bring this
Well,
around. I'm sorry. Go ahead, there, Deb.
and so, I jumping in here, one of the things, and like I said, I've known you for quite a while. One of the things that you've done a lot is you've done all of this with humor. And and I mean, this is the cancer and comedy show, and so I love that you are always saying, we have to laugh, we have to enjoy. How do we turn bad situations into good by using humor?
Yeah. In April of 1996, when my oncologist said, "You're a Ned. There's no evidence of disease. You're
Oh,
cancer free."
I love that phrase, Ned. I love it.
I actually went home, told my wife, I said, I'm sick and tired of dressing in suits and white shirts and regimental ties, which is the old IBM dress code.
Right, yeah, you were the IBM
And I'm,
person. Yep. Hmm.
and I'm teaching seminars to people who are in slacks and shirts and no ties. So I adopted a look. I went to sport coats, slacks, and a bow tie that I tied myself, and would tell people that when I became cancer free, I gave all my suits, my Hart Schaffner marked suits, to Goodwill, and then realized that I couldn't die.
You had no suit to be buried in.
I had nothing to wear.
Oh, that's a classic. That's a classic. They never seem to be buried in. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
I think that'd be more fitting for my wife than for me, because she was a very well groomed and fastidious dresser.
Well, sound like she was quite a woman. You miss her a lot, and part of what you're doing now is to kind of honor her in a way. It sounds like to me.
Yeah, I'm going to grab something here. See if I can put this up.
Oh,
That is a picture of her that was
how
taken.
lovely.
That's very
That was
nice.
taken at our 60th wedding anniversary. She is 79 years old in that picture. She never looked her age.
I was going to say, you married a youngster.
Yeah.
I did, well, I was 19 and she was 18 by 2 days. We were married on January 6th, and she became 19 on January the 8th.
Well, that's awesome. And for those in our audio audience only, Gordon was able to show a beautiful picture of his wife, and she's been, if I had gone for a few years now, but one of the things I love about you, Gordon, is you just keep on moving on here, man. You keep on doing some great stuff.
With humor, right? With humor.
With humor, and I love that. And but I want to kind of bring our conversation around and close it in just a minute here with this thought about, and I want you to chime in here too, Deb. What are some things that let's do it this way, Deb? What are some things that you think Gordon has to offer to people, particularly maybe even elderly people who are going through some challenges in life? What have you picked up on here, Deb, that he has to offer to people?
I think definitely, as I said before, don't stop. And because we see that happen so many times with someone is they kind of have this fatalistic attitude. This has happened to me. Oh, poor me. And it's perfectly acceptable to have those, oh, poor me thoughts. But then you say, okay, I'm done with those. And if it means writing it down in a journal or doing whatever, okay, that's great. And I think the other thing that it just so impresses me with Gordon is that you are always learning. And, I think we can, even if somebody can't get out and about and go to college and do all those things, there are still so many ways now to continue learning. You're 86 years old and you're on a live stream. Holy cow. People my age can't always do things like that. So, that's the thing is you're just out there. Like you're the Energizer Bunny, right? You just keep going and going and going.
So Gordon, you heard now. Go ahead there, Gordon. Go ahead, please.
I've got a couple other things going in my life. Of course, when I was in grad school, it was during the COVID time, so a lot of our classes were on Zoom. But toward the end, we were able to get together in a classroom, and I just fell in love with the young people who were in grad school. They were all in their 20s or 30s, and they're just terrific people.
I bet they were good to you too, weren't they? I bet they appreciated you.
No, when I graduated with my master's, my daughter asked me. My daughter lives about 10 miles south of me, and in fact, she's just now qualified for Medicare. So, and this year I had 3 great grandchildren graduate. 2 from high school and 1 from college.
Oh, I love it.
Well, I'm in the outback in Missouri. We marry young and breed early.
Oh goodness. Oh boy. Well, we could go down a tangent there, my friend.
We better behave ourselves.
I've got a great granddaughter who graduated from high school 2 years ago, and she's expecting a baby in January. So I'm going to be a great.
So you're going to have a great grandmother. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Here's what I love to hear. And I know you told me this before prior conversation, but just tell our lifter uppers, our audience, how people reacted when you walked across the stage at age 80 something to graduate, to how the people in the
Well, I've
how people
got the
react.
video clip somewhere, but my daughter asked me, said, "Are you going to walk?" I said, "I'm 85 years old. I've just accomplished a master's degree in English to go with my engineering degree that I completed 60 years ago. Of course, I'm going to walk. It's not a big deal. It's just, I mean, I enrolled in grad school. I completed the 10 courses. I wrote the final paper and passed my oral exam. You bet I'm going to walk." And she says, "Well, then we're going to have a party. I live in the co-op. We've got a community room." So I reserved the community room, figuring that, 10 or 15 people would show up. I walked across that stage. There were 1,000 graduates in the infield. It was in the football stadium. And the graduate students were last. So I'm toward the end of it. And there are several thousand people in the stands. And I walked across the stage. I hear this sound. I look around. Everybody's standing.
Oh, I love
Standing
it.
ovation.
You deserve the standing ovation.
So
Standing
I'm walking
ovation.
with my rollator, and the president of the university is at the end. I'm supposed to stop and have a picture with him. And so I stopped and I put my arm around him because I needed some support. So I put my arm around him and I told him, I said, "Now, don't take this the wrong way."
There you go. There you go. Well, let's bring around. What that's awesome. Everybody deserves a standing ovation. I think certainly
know.
in that case, that is certainly the case. But here's the reality, Gordon. I want to ask you a bit of advice here towards the end of our conversation. Not everybody feels like they get a standing ovation or any recognition at all. In fact, they feel in that. The grim. We talk about turning the grim to grins. They feel that grim place. Where they've let the loss of a spouse defeat them, or they've had cancer or depression or something else that just brought them low. Let's just say that you're talking to somebody who in our audience, or maybe somebody in your life, who just needs an encouraging word from Gordon today, or a word to speak into their life. What would you say to that person who's in a low place, a grim place, but maybe you can give them some advice to help them get to a better place?
Well, that's a further. I would have to be there specifically, but I entered what I call the seventh stage of living at the age of 78. And one of my speaking buddies, Patricia Fripp, I sent her an email. I said, "Patricia, I'm feeling a little bit at loose ends. I'm not exactly sure what to do next. I'm 78 years old. I feel like I'm adrift." And Patricia, as she is known to be, sent me a terse email reply. "Share your wisdom." Well, now, I don't know if I have any wisdom, but I have some experience. And so if I met somebody, my current view is this. Gordon Hill is an advocate for originality. We're all originals.
I love it.
And the biggest problem we have in living is that nobody reminds us that you're an original. There's nobody else like you. Even identical siblings have the same DNA.
Mm-hmm.
But when they start developing a worldview,
Yeah.
they start separating. And my dental hygienist has twin boys in their 20s. And I told her the other day, I was talking to her about this, and I said, "I'll bet your two boys started departing from their equalness when they learned which one was the oldest and which one was the youngest."
Yeah. Even if it was by minutes, right? Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and she said, exactly. As soon as, I've forgotten his name, let's say he's Brad. As soon as Brad knew he was the oldest, his brother Billy never heard the end of it. And that has to influence your development as an original. So the problem is, if I'm an original and I wasn't born with a handbook on how to develop that originality, how do I do it? And that goes back to the fundamentals, which is
the fundamentals.
Desire. What is it you want to accomplish, not what do other people want you to accomplish,
So
provided you're being helpful.
So your advice to that
love
person.
it. I love it.
I love that. Advocate for originality. I love that. Well, Gordon, it's been a pleasure having you as our guest here today. If people want to reach out to you and find out more about you, how can they do that?
Well, I've got website that's kind of out of date. I haven't done much with it lately. I've been writing more than it's. It's just called storygordon.com, all one word. I've got a YouTube channel that's youtube.com/storygordon, all one word. But both of those are outdated.
We'll still put connections to those in our show links, so people can
I'm on
follow up with.
LinkedIn and I'm on Facebook, and
we're buddies on Facebook.
We'll put all those links in our show notes and our YouTube notes. And what a great guest, huh, Deb? You have anything else you want to share before we say goodbye to Gordon here?
This has just been fantastic, and I have enjoyed touching base with you again. Let's not wait. How many years? Too many years. Let's not wait before we do this again.
All right. Well, Gordon, thanks for being with us as our guest here on the Cancer and Comedy Podcast, and we'll see you again. And blessings on you. And I'm just waiting for you to get your next degree at about age 90. You need to go back.
I want to come and do a standing ovation.
There you go. Well, great. Thank you for being with us here. So, Deb, I think that's going to about do it for our show today. Can you kind of see our way out here?
Yep. I will end us. So this does bring us to the close of this live stream of the Cancer and Comedy Podcast with Dr. Brad Miller. Cancer and Comedy is all about telling uplifting stories of people like you who are kicking cancer's butt with healing through hope and humor. You can join those of us who are turning the grim into grins by telling us your uplifting stories. Just go to cancerandcomedy.com/voice message. Well, that's it for now. Please join us next time on our podcast, and we will have live streams, so join us on those again. But if you like what you hear, please pass this podcast on to someone in your life who needs to turn their grim into a grin. For Dr. Brad Miller, I'm Deb Kriet, reminding you that a cheerful heart is good medicine.